Season 5 of Call of Duty introduced a few new weapons as well as a lot of buffs and nerfs for the previous meta guns. So today we're going to be going over the top 5 ARs with the best classes that you should be using. With the first gun being the CR56, I'll be giving you guys a 5 attachment and a gunfighter class. And these are going to work very well in Warzone and in multiplayer. So for the first attachment, we are going to be going over to the muzzle, and in a previous update they did lower the overall recoil control of the weapon and made it so the iron sights shake a lot. We are going to be using those iron sights, so we have to use the compensator to bring down that recoil on the weapon. For the barrel, if you're on Warzone, use the reinforced barrel, but in multiplayer I would definitely use that long barrel since you don't need that much damage range and you're going to get a lot more value out of that long barrel. For the underbarrel, we are going to go ahead and add that Ranger foregrip. Warzone, you want to use the vertical. In Warzone, you typically always want to use reinforced barrel, bull velocity rounds, and then the vertical foregrip for the underbarrel. Multiplayer is when you can have a little bit more fun with the builds because the maps aren't like, you know, they're huge and they're small and things like that. So for the magazine, you want to use the extended mag 1. Given if you just want a lot of ammo, basically use the extended mag 2. This is super good. Does make the weapon a little bit heavier, and so I think more of you guys, including myself, are going to prefer the extended mag 1 on there. For the rear grip, you want to use the ergonomic grip just to increase the overall slide to fire, that dive to fire. So if you want to use the weapon up close, you're going to be able to easily do so. Then for the stock, we're going to be going over here and adding the balanced stock. This can increase the hip fire straight speed as well as that regular straight speed. And so then if you shoulder corners, if you're in a gunfight, you're going to be able to move a little bit faster, making it so you don't really feel like you're stuck in mud. Then we're going to hit the laser with the Strelok laser, increasing the hip fire to ADS accuracy. This is a little bit OD, you don't really need it, it doesn't help. Actually, it helps a lot. It's just like if you want to use an optic, I would definitely take off the laser for the optic. For me, I personally like the iron sights. I would rather increase the hip fire to ADS accuracy, making it feel like I have a little bit of that faster ADS speed. And then for the last attachment, if you're on Warzone, I would use the overpressured rounds. Actually, you know, on both modes, I would use overpressure because you want the bolt velocity at least like 750. Without it, the bolt velocity is like 600. And so right here is going to be a very good build in both Warzone and multiplayer, given, you know, you might want to add the reinforced or, you know, add the vertical if you're on those bigger maps. Do you want everything in Call of Duty without having to play the game? Then you should check out my long-term sponsor, Gwapsi. Gwapsi is a team of real players that will load onto your account to legitimately grind anything that you wish. This goes for all the recent Call of Duties and many other games. It will even get you iridescent so you can flex all the cool rewards. Seriously, there's no risk involved because they don't use an unlock tool. They legitimately play in your account. And I've been with them for a long time and haven't seen a single negative review. And so if you want to save your time and energy, check out gwapsi.com. Now for the 5 attachment build, we are going to be taking off that balanced stock. We're going to be taking off the Strelok laser. We're going to be taking off the rear grip, and then we're going to go over here and have something basically like this. Another very good one is reinforced barrel. Then have the ergonomic without the overpressured rounds. This is more of like a mobile, you know, more well-rounded build. And so there's going to be a couple builds for the CR56, wrapping that one up. Now we got the FFAR. So the FFAR, if this is a very well-rounded weapon that in multiplayer you can use it in basically any scenario. But in Warzone, you still want to play aggressive. This is like a hybrid gun, like you want to use it with your snipers. So the class is going to be the exact same for both modes, and the gunfighter is going to be so much better. So starting things off, we're going to be using the compensator. This gun does bounce around a little bit, and you don't really want to miss shots given the fire rate is fast. So it is forgiving, but then you just don't get that fast TTK. So definitely use the compensator on there. For the barrel, you want to use the long barrel, even in Warzone, just because the damage range isn't that good, given they just buffed it in Warzone, but you still want to use that long barrel, increasing it to 26.4 meters. The bolt velocity, though, is only going to be 600, so it's going to be really slacking on there. So to bring that up, we are going to be adding the overpressured rounds. That makes it up to about 720, and so now it's going to be a very good like hybrid weapon in, you know, on any mode that you play. For the underbarrel, I like the Ranger foregrip. Maybe if you're playing on very big maps, you want to use the vertical, but this gun is super good when you play aggressive, and so now you're not going to get as many dead slides because you're going to be tactical sprinting and regular sprinting a little bit faster around the map. Then for the magazine, we're going to be using the extended mag 1, so you don't really have to worry about reloading as much, since, you know, that fire rate it is a 938 RPM, which is pretty fast for an AR. Then we're going to be adding the ergonomic grip. Typically we would add the quick draw grip, but because this thing is so good up close, you want to be able to use it up close, so the ergonomic is going to cut down on a lot of those delays. Then for the stock, you want to add the balance pad, allowing you to hit fire strafe, regular strafe, overall move a little bit faster. Then if you want, you can add an optic, which is what I'm going to be adding, but I know some people would rather have the Strelok laser since they don't mind the iron sights. For me though, usually I use like that Doffrich MF reflex, and then you can go over here and change that reticle. If you change it to like one of these, it's like the regular dots are better, but I think it's really enjoyable to use these reticles, and I think a lot of you guys would actually enjoy that. So just try it out. Makes it feel like you're using something new in the game. And so if you guys do want a screenshot though, here's the best gunfighter FFAR. Super phenomenal weapon. Now if you are using it with just 5 attachments, you got to keep like, you know, that damage range on there and increase the bullet velocity. We don't have that attachment to add the overpressured, so swap that barrel for the reinforced. Keep the compensator, keep that ranger foregrip. Again, you can use the vertical if you want more recoil control. Then we're going to take off that balance. We're going to have the ergonomic with the extended mag. Right here is the pristine 5 attachment FFAR. It's going to wrap it up for the first 2 guns. Just keep in mind, a lot of this isn't in order, given the gun that we're going after. The AK is going to be my favorite gun in the game. It is so incredible. Before that though, the AK is still a incredible gun. You're going to see after we build this thing, it's going to have no recoil because we got the compensator on there, increasing that recoil gun kick control as well as that vertical recoil control. The 5 attachment build will not have an optic, but since we are using gunfighter first, we're going to go ahead, add that Kepler microflex with that compensator. Then we're going to tie that into the vertical foregrip. Since it is so bouncy, this reduces a lot of that bounce. You're going to be going through ammo pretty fast, so we're going to be adding the extended mag 1 on there, increasing that mag size up to about 40. Then you want to go over here, and if you're playing multiplayer, you just want to use the reinforced barrel. Actually, yeah, even in Warzone, you can get away with the gain twist since you don't need as much more damage range. The bullet velocity is a little bit more helpful. So Warzone, use the gain twist. Multiplayer, use that reinforced barrel. Then for the rear grip, we want to use the quick draw grip. Since you don't really play too aggressive, given this is a pretty good sniper support weapon, you still just don't want to play that aggressive. So this is just going to make it so you know, you can just ADS a little bit faster. It makes it so you actually have a faster true sprint to fire speed, since you don't really fire the gun until you're ADS. So you kind of want to go off that. So our true sprint to fire is 210 milliseconds now. Then we're going to be going over here and adding the infiltrator stock. The balance stock really doesn't give us that much strafe speed. The combat stock is also a really good one. Like, I actually, you know what, infiltrator is good on the smaller maps, but combat stock, you win a lot more gunfights at long range since your screen, like, you have more flinch resistance as well as strafe speed. It feels super good. Then for the fire mods, Warzone, use the overpressured. Multiplayer, I would use the recoil springs just to, you know, smooth out that recoil. You guys can see that the gun's really not bouncy whatsoever when you do add those recoil springs, so then you can actually use the gun at long range as well as up close. And right here is going to be a very good 8 attachment AK. Warzone, use the overpressured rounds. Now for the 5 attachment build, we are going to be taking off the optic. We're going to be taking off the overpressured rounds, and then we will not use the combat stock. And you want to use something just like this. I actually do kind of recommend using the iron sight one up close, just because you know, it's not as versatile when you have 5 attachments. So I just like the ergonomic, but quick draw grip is still going to be super good. Could even take off the rear grip if you're on Warzone, then, you know, just add an optic so you can kind of see what the variations are going with. Okay, the next gun is going to be the ABR, but before that, the Krig C literally actually still kills kind of faster if you can hit those shots, because it does a 3-shot kill up to 41 meters, making it so the 5 attachment build doesn't even need a barrel. But for the 8 attachment, might as well throw on that reinforced barrel, increasing that bullet velocity as well. Warzone, use the gain twist barrel, you get a lot more value out of that. But for the multiplayer, use the reinforced. The gun is super bouncy just like the AK, so you got to use the compensator. And the iron sights, absolute dog shit, so you have to use like an optic, and I recommend the Kepler onto there. Underbarrel, use that vertical foregrip, maximizing the recoil control, and it also makes it so the gun just doesn't really shake as much. So now we don't have any vertical, we don't have any side to side, and we don't really have any overall shake. We're going to be adding the extended mag 1, so we don't have to reload as often. ADS speed isn't the best. You could do the ergonomic and get away with it if you find yourself on smaller maps, but quick draw grip is going to be best for most of them, just so you can snap onto the target a little bit faster. Then we are going to be using the balance stock. You guys can see we get so much strafing movement speed, hip fire movement speed, and a little bit of our regular strafe speed. So balance stock is definitely what you want to use on the Krig C. Then for the last attachment, Warzone, use the overpressured. Multiplayer, use the recoil springs, and I promise you with the recoil springs, now you can actually use a suppressor if you want and still have a good amount of recoil control. But if you have all this recoil control, like, still bouncing around a little bit, but you're going to be able to, you know, hit more shots a little bit easier, just really maximize that TTK. So if you want a screenshot, there you guys go. For the 5 attachment build, we are going to be taking off the no, we're going to keep in the optic. We're taking off the barrel, and then we're going to take off balance stock, the recoil springs. We're going to use something just like this, and this is going to be pretty good. Warzone, definitely use the 8 attachment build. You could take off that and then I guess use like the reinforced for Warzone. That is for sure a really good one. If you guys do find this helpful and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you drop a subscription, drop a like. You can vouch for me in the comments. And now this is going to be my favorite new gun in the game right now. This is the ABR, otherwise known as the AUG. I'm not going to be giving you guys a burst. I think this thing is so much better in the full auto. If you want a burst video, I should have one on my channel, but when you use it full auto, that's when it's going to be really good. So if you are using a burst or just in general, it is a 3-shot kill up to about 35 meters as long as you mix in 1 headshot. So CHF barrel doesn't do anything for you. You really don't need to use that CHF barrel. So we are going to be going over here and adding that rapid fire, increasing that to full auto, and it does lower our the maximum damage range, but you should be perfectly fine. Like, you're not going to really notice that whatsoever. And then to bring that up, we can just go over here and add the reinforced. I don't have it leveled up, so let me go to a private match real quick. For the next attachment, these iron sights are absolutely horrible. Well, I guess not iron sights, but the default sights are scope on the gun. If you want to add iron sights, you have to use a attachment, and at that point I would literally just rather use a better optic. Unless you want the gun to feel new, then you could just use the iron sights on there, but the Kepler definitely is going to be the better option for this weapon. Then we're going to be going over to the muzzle, and you can get away with the suppressor pretty easily. Obviously you'll hit more shots with the compensator. Warzone, you probably want to use that compensator, or even like the monolithic suppressor, just to increase that damage beyond the range, like that maximum damage range, since that rapid fire brings it down. So for Warzone, use the monolithic. Multiplayer, you can just use the regular suppressor, and obviously if you want to maximize control, use the compensator. Then for the underbarrel, we are actually going to be using the Ranger 40, since there's really not that much side to side bounce, and you can play aggressive with the weapon, so might as well make it a little bit easier to play aggressive. And that's why for the comb, we are going to be adding the ergonomic riser, bringing down all those delays, allowing us to just really put pressure onto the enemies. Then for the magazine, we're going to be using the extended mag 1, increase that mag size to a nice 45. For the stock, you want to go ahead and add the infiltrator pad or the balance stock. Overall, I typically like the balance stock more, since I like the shoulder, the walls and things like that. And then when you're ADS, like, this strafe speed's already pretty good, but if you want to make yourself even harder to target hit and faster strafe speed, use the infiltrator. It's just, you're moving really fast, so I feel like some people won't really care for that too much. But right here is going to be my favorite 8 attachment ABR, otherwise known as AUG class setup. Now for the 5 attachment build, we are going to be taking off the balance pad, the ergonomic riser, or you can take off the magazine, add the ergonomic, and you have a faster ADS speed, and then you want to take off the magazine. And so right here is going to be a very good one. Would even take off the muzzle, add a magazine, but I do recommend you guys just to use this thing in the 8 attachments. I think it's a lot better. And then I'm going to be giving you guys one more build. Sorry, I forgot the screenshot in that last one, but we are going to be using, this is going to be like an extra build. The Kilo is still super good in Warzone and in multiplayer. Very, very good gun, except for there's going to be 2 different builds. For the muzzle, you want to go ahead and add the monolithic if you're on Warzone or any big map. Multiplayer, just regular maps, you want to use the compensator or the suppressor. For me, I want a little bit more recoil control, especially for the underbarrel. It is a little bit OD, but you'll see why we're using this. And so this is just right now, you're not going to have any recoil on the weapon. It is going to be so unbelievably easy to use that you're never going to be dying. So we're going to be adding the extended mag 1 on there to increase that mag size to 50. It literally goes from 30 to 50, so definitely super helpful with that. Then we're going to be adding the quick draw grip, allowing you to ADS a little bit faster. Then we are going to be going over to the stock, and again we are going to be adding the balance stock. And then for the fire mods, Warzone, use the overpressured. Multiplayer, use that rapid fire, and then pair that up with the reinforced, which is going to be good for both modes. And so now you literally have no recoil on the gun, pretty fast TTK. And then we're going to be adding a sight. Obviously you can use the Strelic laser if you don't mind the iron sights, but I'm rocking 8 attachments. Most of the time I'm going to be adding a sight to my gun. And that sight of choice on here is going to be the Dofrix, given Kepler's really good, the Volhisky's good, the Accu Spot, which is just all personal preference. So right here is going to be a very good 8 attachment gunfighter Kilo. Warzone, use the overpressured rounds. That should be pretty darn good, but if you want to use in the 5 attachments, take off the fire mod, take off the stock on there. And then honestly, you kind of have to keep the reinforced. I would take off the vertical and just use something like this, just so you have a little bit of mobility, but then there's really not that much horizontal recoil to where there's a decent amount of vertical, but should be perfectly fine with that. And you still can use a suppressor. You just got to be a little bit more warmed up. Make sure you get that first shot on the enemy. Right here is going to be the 5 attachments. And that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys did find this helpful, make sure you guys subscribe and all of that. I hope you guys do enjoy the build. Hopefully you pop off and get some PRs. Deuces.